As we were discussing structural adaptations of living organisms during our past lessons, we were always observing and analyzing body features that help living organisms to survive. And in many cases, we identified more than one structural adaptation in an animal or in a plant. The real question now is, how do all these adaptations collaborate and work together to help living organisms survive? احنا اتكلمنا قبل كده عن الادابتيشن وقلنا ان في الادابتيشن احنا بنتكلم على التأقلم. How do living organisms survive؟ ازاي قدروا يعيشوا ويتحملوا الظروف الصعبة دي؟ واتكلمنا عن different types of adaptation. Some of them are structural adaptations يعني related للbody parts, and others are behavioral adaptations that are related to our behaviors or actions. Now, get your writing tools and your books set as we will learn today about body systems of humans and animals and the way in which they adapt to fulfill the basic needs. Get ready and let's start our fourth lesson from Adaptation and Survival concept. Over the past few years, we learned about the different organs and body parts, and we know that there are parts in our body that readily observable, like our hands, eyes, nose. However, there are other parts and organs inside our bodies that we cannot see directly. طبعاً انتوا عارفين ان في جزء كبير من الأعضاء نقدر نشوفها بعينينا بوضوح تام، وفي أعضاء inside our bodies that we cannot see. Now, we are just sure that they are there because they do their jobs. These are like heart, stomach, and the brain. When a group of organs collaborate to perform a certain job, we call this group a system. So, a body system is a group of organs. لما بيكون عندي مجموعة من الأعضاء بنسميها system. The group of organs work together to perform a job. Example of systems that are inside our bodies and other living organism bodies include the digestive system and the respiratory system. You see from their names, we can easily tell their jobs. They help us digest food and help us in respiration. Have you ever wondered what happens during digestion? يا ترى إيه اللي بيحصل لما بناكل؟ And whether our digestive system is similar to other living organisms? We will learn all about this in activity 10, Observe like a scientist. في الactivity بتاعتنا هنلاحظ زي العلماء بالظبط. We will observe the structure of our digestive system and we will describe the way it works. After we learn about the different organs that work together inside the system to do their jobs. The first step we need to do is to observe the digestive system image we have in page 21. Have a good look at the image and try to guess what would be the job of each organ and how the organs would work together. We will give you some time to write down your notes and get back to you for step 2. هنفكر كويس بعد ما نبص على الصورة وظيفة كل organ هتكون إيه. I know that many of you might have easily guessed the job of few of the organs, like the mouth, and how it would help us shred and cut the food. And I also know that jobs of other organs might be not clear to you yet. Don't worry about it. في أعضاء بيبقى سهل قوي إن احنا نتخيل وظيفتها. وفي أعضاء بيبقى صعب إن احنا نتخيلها. ما تقلقوش خالص. هي دي مهمتنا إن احنا نتعلم عنها. That's why we have step 2, in which you will read the text in page 21 and underline the job of each organ, then compare this with our guess on the image to see if we were able to correctly guess the job of each organ and how the organs relate to one another to work together. Take your time to read the text and don't forget, محتاجين إن احنا نعمل خط تحت الوظيفة اللي هيعملها كل organ. ما تقلقوش خالص، احنا معاكم step by step. Make sure to underline and take notes. I am sure that you know the job of each organ in the digestive system. Let's take all our notes and see what really happens inside the digestive system. We will do this using the interactive we have in page 21, which you can access on your digital version of Science Textbook on the Egyptian Knowledge Bank through the QR code. يلا بينا نجيب الانتراكتيف جيم اللي هنتعلم فيها بطريقة مسلية جدا ازاي نقدر نعرف ال function of each organ and we will relate the organ shape to its function. مهم قوي ان انتوا تلاحظوا كل organ بيعمل ايه. Can you see it? What is the first organ that receives the food? The esophagus? The stomach? No, no, no. It is the mouth, of course. The mouth is the first organ that receives the food. Let's think about it. What needs to happen to the food when it enters the mouth? It needs to be shredded into smaller pieces. لازم نعمل chewing جامد قوي قوي ونقطع الأكل. What part inside the mouth that makes this happen? Then, exactly, this is the teeth. The teeth help in shredding the food into smaller pieces. We also notice that the food becomes soft after chewing. So what makes the food soft? Yes, it is the saliva. Saliva inside the mouth, it helps in making the food soft after chewing, to be easy to swallow. Did you notice the water inside your mouth? This is the saliva. Swallowing happens through the throat, this part. If you put your hand here in this part, you can feel the movement as you swallow. Try it now. Swallow. All looking good. The mouth shredded food into pieces and made it soft and mushy. And the throat helped us to swallow the food. Now, the food needs to go to the stomach. Oh wait, this distance? The distance between throat and stomach can't be like this. The food must go through something to reach this stomach. Did you think? Exactly, another organ. Which one? I think the esophagus. What makes the esophagus the best organ for the job though? You see, it is like a tube, a long one, so that it can deliver the food from the mouth to the stomach. And furthermore, its walls are muscular. There are muscles that move the food till it reaches the stomach. Now the food arrived safely into the stomach. Do you recall from the text that the food stays in the stomach 4 hours? Why would it take that much time? It performs a complex job as it turns food into a soapy liquid. جوه الاستومك الأكل هيتحول لشيء سائل خالص عشان نقدر نعمل digestion of food بسهولة. Pretty much like softening that the saliva does in the mouth. However, here in the stomach, it uses acids and digestive juices inside as it mixes the food to make it soapy and ready to the next step. What is the next step exactly? It is the small intestine. Juices from the liver and pancreas flow into small intestine with the food. These juices break down the food even more into simple small nutrients that the body can absorb. Nutrients هي المواد الغذائية اللي بتبقى موجودة في الأكل اللي احنا بنعمل الدايجيشن بروسيس كلها عشان نوصل لها. Note that the food is still in the small intestine where the simple nutrients get absorbed through the walls of the small intestine and it gets into the blood, which distributed to all the body parts. Now the body absorbed what it needs from the food using the help of the digestive system. What is the next step? Next step involves the large intestine. which receives the food that couldn't be digested and the waste that the body doesn't need. The large intestine then absorbs the extra water from all these wastes, then moves the wastes to outside of the body through the anus. Wow! We know now all about the organs and parts of the digestive system and their jobs. Let's see how the food moves through the digestive system, starting the moment it enters the mouth. You can now tell that digestion happens in a sequence of steps that cannot be compromised. There is a system that works to make sure that food is digested properly. The digestive system, the stomach, cannot be before the esophagus. No organ can do its job before another organ. They must all work together in the system and the right sequence to break down the food we eat into simple nutrients that the body can absorb and make use of. لازم نهتم جدا بترتيب الدايجستيف سيستم اورجنز. ما ينفعش هنا اي اورجن يشتغل قبل الاورجن التاني، لازم يمشوا بالترتيب ده عشان نوصل لاحسن نتيجه digestion and absorption of food. Well, it's your turn now to answer the questions in page 23. Take your time, and when you finish, we will check the answers together. Question 1. Why is digestion important? Digestion helps our body breaks down food into simple nutrients that can be absorbed so that our body can use them to get the energy it needs. Question 2. Explain how the mouth helps digest food. I'm sure that you didn't forget to write about the role of the teeth and the saliva inside your mouth. فاكرين السلايفا كانت ايه؟ Question 3. Compare and contrast the digestion that take place in the stomach, small intestine, and large intestine. We know that the stomach mixes the food and turns into a soapy liquid, while the small intestine turns the food into simple nutrients that can be absorbed. Finally, the large intestine carries the non-digested food and wastes outside the body through the anus after absorbing the extra water. After we learned about the digestive system, I want you to search for the different ways in which we maintain the health of this system, such as drinking enough water. You can look at EKP or through the library after we get fully covered the digestive system for humans. Can we say that the digestive system of all organisms are similar or there can be differences between them? تخيلوا كده لو اتكلمنا على other living organisms، تفتكروا الدايجستيف سيستم بتاعهم هيبقى زي الدايجستيف system of humans exactly? Will it work the same way? Do they have the same organs? This is what we are going to explore in activity number 10. Analyze like a scientist. In this activity, we will analyze two of the digestive systems of animals, cows and dogs, so that we can understand how the structure of their digestive systems help them to survive. After we finalize that activity, you will be easily capable of comparing the digestive systems of humans and animals. The first thing I want you all to do is to look closely at the picture that represents the digestive system of cows and dogs on page 24 and observe its parts and think of different questions to ask, because this will help in your analysis, such as what the parts look like, what is the difference between cows and dogs, and why this difference exists. I'll give you time to think that I will share with you my answers. Let me share with you my analysis. I started my analysis by making the observation that are obvious and easy to notice. For example, I noticed that the digestive system of the cow is longer than the digestive system of the dog. The cow has 4 compartments. Those 4 compartments, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here they are. The 4 compartments to digest the food. But the dog has 1 stomach. Then I started my analysis and I asked myself, why does a cow has a longer digestive system than the dog? And here I started immediately to think about the function of the digestive system and reminded myself that in the last activity, the main function of the digestive system is to digest food. And since the cow eats herbs and the dog eats meat, the difference between them might be due to the type of food. Let's read the text and check together whether we analyze the image correctly and what is the reason for the difference between the 2 digestive systems. The text shows that our analysis is not only correct, but also we came to be a conclusion that the digestive system differs because of the type of the food of each organism in order to divide the food among them so that it's easier to break it down. Unlike the dogs that digest meat, meaning protein, and this is easier and takes shorter time. So their digestive tract is not long and doesn't have compartments like the cow. What is the digestive system of cow? Was it short? What do you think would happen? They will not be able to digest the grass, and then you must find another type of food to feed on in order to be able to live. In the same way, if you think about your digestive system, you will know why each organ has a specific structure and function, why they must cooperate in order to be able to digest the different types of food. And this is the way in which the digestive system adapts to meet the basic needs of organisms. أكيد انتوا لاحظتوا الفروقات اللي ما كانت ما بين digestive system of human and of cow and of dogs. هنا كان في فروقات في structure والfunction, the shape of organs and their functions according to different types of food. أكيد احنا بناكل أكل مختلف عن الcow which eats grass and the dog which eats meat. وده اللي خلى فيه difference في adaptations in our internal body organs and the digestive system. Now, let's think about the questions. And the second question in particular is one of the questions I'd like to see how you think about it. And the question says, the shape of cow's teeth differs from the shape of dogs. Does anyone have an idea of why? Everyone who thought about the type of food and its relation to the shape of the teeth could certainly answer the question correctly. The most important thing is to remember the main goal of our lesson is to understand how the body's systems adapt and cooperate with each other in order to meet our different needs. And for this, we will continue our exploration of the second system in our lesson, which is the respiratory system in activity 11, observe like a scientist. Surely you noticed before that we go up the stairs, for example, or make an effort or run. We breathe quickly, unlike if we are doing normal type of activities or sitting down. Do you wonder why? What's meant by the process of breathing is that we inhale air from the nose and mouth like this. But in reality, we do not need all the air in our body. We need to take in from it only oxygen. So, the exhalation takes place in order to expel the rest of gases that we do not need. And when we make an effort, we need more oxygen. أكيد لاحظتوا إن إحنا لما بنعمل مجهود معدل التنفس عندنا بيزيد جدا، ولما بنبقى مستريحين التنفس بيقل وبيرجع للريت الطبيعي بتاعه. وأكيد بعد ما بنتنفس we get rid of the extra gases that our bodies don't need. In order to understand how does this happen, we will start the analysis activity of the structure and function of the respiratory system and how the organs cooperate within. After we finish, you will be able to discover what is the relation between the digestive and respiratory systems and why did we study them together. And you will also find a clearer answer to your question. Why do we breathe quickly when we make much effort? As you read the text, I need you to observe the structure of the respiratory system and the function of the various organs in the process of inhalation and exhalation. You can start reading. Let's start with the first part we observed while we navigate the interactive activity. Once we are talking about systems, عايزاكم دايما تركزوا في حاجتين: structure and function of the system. Structure بمعنى the shape of the system. Function بمعنى the job of the system. عشان تقدروا تفهموا كويس جدا اللي احنا عايزينه. Let's start our interactive games. المرة دي هنلعب الجيم على respiratory system. هنبتدي نركب البارts. Then we are going to learn what is the function of each part to understand the whole process of respiration. Okay. The first thing that air passes over when we inhale, exactly, the nose. After that, where it goes to the throat, which is the larynx. Then it goes to the trachea, which then branches into the lungs, and then we have the diaphragm. Can we put the stomach here? No, it's not part of this system. This is the structure of the respiratory system. The respiratory system is responsible for breathing process that we know at the beginning, in which we inhale air, and this happens through inhalation, and we release harmful gases that we do not need, such as carbon dioxide. How does this happen? Let's watch this together and focus on taking notes of what's happening. Breathe in. I want you to notice the oxygen gas coming in from nose to trachea to the two lungs. Then let's try to breathe out. Carbon dioxide gas moves from lung to trachea out through the nose. There are things that we can clearly notice in the inhalation and exhalation. The diaphragm was as it's moving downward during inhalation. When this happened, the lung would inflate like a balloon, and then on the exhale, we found it came back again. The lung pushed the air out of it. Well, what does that mean? What is the relation between the diaphragm and the inhalation and exhalation process? The diaphragm is a large muscle that can contract during inhalation and flatten during exhalation. الدايفراجم هي عبارة عن عضلة بتساعدنا في التنفس. ساعات بتنزل وبتوسع المكان لللونجز عشان تقدر تاخد اير كتير جدا، وساعات بتطلع لفوق عشان تضيق اللونجز ونبتدي نعمل exhalation process. Look at the picture here for the diaphragm. When it contracts, its size decreases and the space that it takes decreases. The space that was emptied, the lung takes and inflate in order to receive air and take oxygen from it, which is inhaling process. When this muscle expands like this, it gets back to its place, so it pushes against the lungs, making them expel the carbon dioxide and the other gases that the body doesn't need back to the air. And we call this exhaling. Wait a second. How did the lungs absorb oxygen from the air? Let's check this out together. The air enters your body and goes through the trachea. And in the lungs, the air goes through smaller air passages that look like branches of a tree. And at the end of them, there are alveoli. Can you see the alveoli? Which are little sacs surrounded by blood vessels. These blood vessels absorb the oxygen into the bloodstream. Isn't it time for some questions? Let's have a look at the questions in your book, page 28. But this time, as we are answering the questions, we will have discussions, and to make our discussions more organized and scientific, we will need to keep asking for clarification. If you hear an answer from your colleagues that you don't fully understand, you can ask them, can you further clarify this to me? Or what did you mean exactly by this? Or what parts from the text or the interactive that supports your answer? Take some time to think about the questions in the way that supports discussions. And when we get back together, I'll tell you all about the discussions that Amira and Hoda had about the question. Hoda shared with Amira an answer to the first question about the diaphragm, and she said that the diaphragm contracts and expands during inhalation and exhalation. When Amira asked Hoda after listening to her, is there a way in which you can further clarify to me what you mean by contracts and expands? Hoda started to draw a diaphragm, and she drew it twice. One of the drawings showed a big diaphragm and the other showed a smaller one. Hoda then explained to Amira, the diaphragm contracts, which means that it gets smaller in size, so it leaves more space for the lungs to expand and get filled with air. And the diaphragm expands during exhaling, so it relaxes and moves up, so it pushes the air outside the lungs. Amira told Hoda that she believes that her explanation is correct, but there was evidence she observed from the interactive. The diaphragm's shape during inhaling allowed the lungs to take in air, and during exhaling pushed the lungs, making them expel the air. You see, the way in which Hoda and Amira talk together is the right way to perform a scientific discussion, in which we should listen carefully and ask questions and provide evidence. All this helps us better understand and give the opportunity for our colleagues to explain their answers in an organized way. دايما واحنا بنتساءل لازم نسأل أسئلة واضحة لحد ما نوصل لمعلومة سليمة. We can perform good discussions about all questions. Now, let's check some responses to the rest of the questions. The second question says, compare the air you breathe in and the air you breathe out. The answer of the second question is that air we inhale carries a group of gases, including oxygen, but the air in exhalation is devoid of oxygen. It doesn't contain oxygen. It's possible for some of you to write that it's loaded with harmful gases that the body doesn't need, such as carbon dioxide. What about the answer of question 3? The answer of question 3 is that when we inhale air, the lungs absorb oxygen from the air, and the blood vessels in the alveoli allow the oxygen to enter the bloodstream so that it can be transported to all of the body parts. What is the answer of question 4? Our bodies always need to get rid of carbon dioxide, so holding our breath keeps the harmful gases in our body. This question actually brings us to the question that we thought about at the beginning of the activity, about the respiratory system. Why do we breathe so quickly when we make an effort? And how does this relate to the digestive system too? The oxygen that results from the breathing process is distributed to the body organs to perform their functions, including the digestive system, which different organs need oxygen to work and burn food and give you energy. And when you make more effort, your body consumes more energy. And in order for your digestive system to provide you with energy, it needs more oxygen. And this is what makes you breathe quickly to supply the oxygen inside your body. زي ما احنا اتعلمنا، احنا محتاجين نوصل الأكسجين to all the body parts to let them work. طب when you do an effort, you need more energy. This means you need more oxygen. That's why you breathe faster. This means that the two systems depend on one another. The digestive system cannot function without the oxygen provided by the breathing process. And the respiratory system needs the energy to be able to take in oxygen during the inhalation process. Studying systems and how they relate to one another is like studying patterns. It's one of the important ideas that scientists use as they study living organisms. That's for our lesson today. We learned about the digestive system and the respiratory system. We also learned how these systems adapt to meet the basic needs in a way that suits the nature of every living organism. Like the differences we studied between the digestive systems of cows and dogs. Did you remember this word? Digestive system is one of our key vocabulary in this lesson, الجهاز الهضمي. For our next lesson, I want you to think about this question. How would your respiratory system look like if we had to live underwater? Thank you all and see you in our next lesson.